In this video, we are going to talk about the creation of the reference lines in the different charts. So for this purpose, we are going to take the simplest chart that Tableau provides us or supports, and that is known as the bar chart. Why I'm using it? Because it's really simple to understand the working of the reference lines on the bar chart. Once you've understood that, you can add reference lines on all the supported chart types, like the area chart or the column chart or any other chart. But if you want to create a reference line on a pie chart or let's say a word map, that's not possible. So you have to first search for the charts that support the reference lines and then add them. Now you must be thinking, what are reference lines? So instead of telling you, I'm just going to show you with the help of an example, right? So this is my Tableau screen. What I'm going to do is I am going to get some of the information, like I'm going to get the category of the products, I'm going to get the subcategory of the products, and then I'm going to get the sales value in the rows, right? So this kind of a chart would be created. Let's get it to entire view. This is a chart that has been created, right? It is a very simple chart. Now why I have used two panes? It's because I want to show you something about the reference lines. The first thing is that the reference lines act as a point of reference through which we can compare the values of a chart. Like you must have seen in some charts there is a line that is drawn on the average value, right? And we can compare all the individual values with that average values. Like suppose here if we draw a reference line on the average value, then what do we get is whether this bookcases subcategory is giving me sales better than the average or worse than the average. Similarly for chairs and similarly for every other individual subcategory, right? So this is what our goal of creating reference lines is. Since reference lines are used for the comparison purposes, for the volumetric or the numeric purposes, so it is important that these reference lines must only be created in the sales parameter over here in this particular chart. In the general sense, these reference lines must be created on any of the continuous values. It may be sales, it may be profit, it may be discount, it may be quantity. Anything that's numeric or continuous in nature can be used to create a reference line. Okay, so let's see how do we create the reference lines. This is the sales parameter, that's the continuous parameter. You got to select it, right click, and there is this option to add a reference line, right? If we just swap these values, so here now we have category and subcategory over here. If we just select them, right click, there is no option to add a reference line, right? And here also in the sales, if we just right click, there is an option to add a reference line. So whether it is a column chart or a bar chart, you can create a reference line. We are going to swap these values because this way you would be able to understand it in a much better fashion. So right click, add a reference line. Now these are the options that we are getting. We are going to look at all of them because all of them are really important, right? The first thing is the scope. So we have two options, actually three options present over here: the entire table, the per pane, and the per cell. First of all, let's go with the entire table option. As soon as I clicked on entire table, you see that the average value is present over here. Like we are able to see that what is the average of the sales of all the subcategories combined and all the categories combined. With this average value, we can compare them. Like bookcases is giving me lower than the average sales, chairs is giving me more than the average sales, furnishings is giving me lower, and tables is giving me higher. That means in the furniture category, there are two subcategories that are performing better than the average and two that are performing lower than the average. But remember this thing, this average is all the average or the average of all the subcategories combined. It is not the individual average of any of the subcategories, right? So in this case, what can I do is, if I want for the individual subcategories, I can select the per pane option. So you can see the average of the furniture is this, the value has changed. In case you want to see the value, you can just click this value in the labels option. So this is the value for the furniture, this is the value for the office supplies, and this is the values for the technology subcategory. That means only one subcategory, that is phones, is giving me higher than the average sales. In the case of the office supplies, we have three such subcategories, and in the case of furniture, we have two such subcategories. But if we select entire table, then the scenario changes. In the case of technology, the most, it is giving all four subcategories as better than the average, but that's the total sales average, right? So this is the difference between the entire table and the per pin option. Then we have the per cell option, which just combines or basically tells us about the individuals, which is not very good of usage in this particular scenario. Like, it is giving us just the individual values, right? So let's just go with entire table, and here you can see the value you can select, which is sum of sales, created by default. If you want it on the basis of something else, so you can create a new parameter over here. Suppose I want it on the basis of a particular value, right? So I can just name it as value line. Okay, any name that you want you can give, and whatever value you want. Let's just go with a bunch of zeros here. Oh, it's not too much. This one looks good, and let's keep all the values as it is and click on OK. So whatever values we have specified, at that particular value a line would be drawn. Like, you want to compare it with the last year sales or last quarter sales, then you can do that. Like, you can add a new value that tells you exactly what was the sales in the last quarter or in the last year or in the last month, whatever parameter you want, and then you can compare the sales with that particular parameter by manually adding the values, right? Furthermore, suppose you don't want a value line, you can just create it on the basis of the sum of sales. So once you create on the sum of sales basis, then there are different parameters that you can do. Like, you can create on the basis of total. So this is the total sales that has been generated by all these subcategories and the categories combined, and this is the chart that shows both of them. That's why all these things are looking very small in front of it. Then we are getting sum, which is again the same thing, same value, but just the total different names. Then we have constant. So by default it's taken as 3024. The value is given over here. If you want a constant value, just like the one we created with a value line, we can create another constant value. Let's just go with a 50,000 amount. So you can see the value is taken as 50,000 over here. You want any particular value, you can just simply write the value using the constant parameter. Then we have minimum, which goes at 3024. That's the minimum amount of sales that we are getting for the fasteners subcategory in the office supplies category. So this is the minimum, it's pointing to the minimum value. Next we want the maximum. So this is the maximum sales that we are getting in the chairs subcategory, which is part of a furniture category. And then we have average, which we have been working upon lately. And last but not the least, we have the median, which gives us the median values to compare with, right? So this is the value parameter. Next we have is the label parameter. Right now you can see the value, whatever the value is, it's been written over here. If you select on computation, so it would tell you that what computation you are using from here, right? Like, if you select average, so it won't give you the value of the average, but that what computation you're being used here is being used, right? Next we have is a custom. So if you want to create a custom label, you can create it as well. You can combine different things, like I want computation to be written, then I want a hyphen sign, and then I want the value to be written. So let's just go with the value as well. Okay, so you can see average dash and the value of the average. So this is better looking label according to me, that's why I'm going with this. You can customize it the way you want. Okay, then we have is a tooltip. If you want a tooltip, that's okay, otherwise you can just click on none. If you want to create a custom tooltip, then also you can customize according to your wish. So I want you to customize this particular tooltip on your own, just like we did with this label thing, and see if it is working with for you or not, right? So that's all for this video, in which we learned about the reference lines. But just like the reference lines, we have multiple other things that are present in the charts for the purpose of comparison or for the purpose of marking on a chart a particular value. If you just want to mark on the chart, there are different things that are available, which includes the reference bands, the boxes, the distribution points, etc. We will be looking at all of them in the next video. So that's it for this video, and thanks for watching. Also, we would be looking at these different formatting options, that how can we format the look of this reference line. Suppose you don't want it in the plain solid black format that it is looking right now, and you want to format it in a particular way for yourself, then how can you do that? All of this would be covered in the upcoming video. That's all for this video, and thanks for watching.